Welcome to Salon Conversations. Today is about targets, and I don't think they work. Mostly, I don't. And there's a couple of reasons why I think they don't work. Quite often, people put a target in place because they want their team to perform. They want them to be motivated. So they think if they put a target in place, that will be really good, that they will be motivated, they'll work harder and engage more with their clients and suggest more things, sell more retail, and then they'll make more money and then they'll be happy to give them the target. It's kind of like, well, if you do this, then I'll do that. It's kind of secondary when I don't think that's the right way to approach it. I just think we don't spend enough time with our team. We don't train them on the things we want. We don't teach them how to speak. We don't teach them how to solve problems and suggest and deliver. And therefore, it's just a frustrating circle. And I don't think slapping a target fixes anything. I really don't. One of the things that I do notice is people will advertise for a new team member, and then when that team member comes, she wants a higher rate of pay. And then they think, oh, God, I don't pay my girls that. Why would I pay this girl? I don't know, what she's worth. And I think there lies your problem is you haven't been reflecting on what the rate of pay is and have that as an open conversation, because why wouldn't you pay your team members more? You can't because they don't perform. But if they did perform, you'd be no problem paying them more. So quite often they don't talk about money or anything until the team member comes to them. And then, like the reason she comes to you, it's really difficult for her to do that. And when she comes to you for that, she's thinking, like, I would go and get a job here, but I actually like it here. And so maybe a partner or someone says, well, tell your boss about it. She's like, I can't. And so there is the problem, is that we don't have honest conversations about performance and we don't have open conversations about rates of pay. Now, quite often in a business, one girl gets a different rate of pay and then you swear them not to talk to each other about it. And of course they don't, they do talk. And then you can look like someone who's making favoritism to someone who gets paid more and someone who doesn't. So when you keep all of that stuff in the closet and you don't talk about it openly and honestly, you're at high risk of losing someone who's pissed off that she finds out someone else gets $2 an hour more than she does, and she's been there for this many years and she trains Betty to do this and whatever. Like, it's pretty easy to find a resentment. So I think I would be talking about performance all the time. I would be talking about rates of pay all the time, and I wouldn't be hiding them. I'd say that's what you get paid here. And if you do A, B, and C, then you're in a position to be paid more. So that's a big stretch for a lot of people, and it takes a bit of time. So I think that you need to be looking at what your team members make and if you can pay them more. So at the end of this, I'll give you a really simple exercise to do, which makes so much sense. I've taught it on stage in really large rooms and they go, wow, that just makes so much sense. It does, right? So I'll talk to you that in a minute. What I think is really important is you have to look at your lost clients. And I haven't been a salon. We looked at their lost clients before I came along. A lot of them look at it retention. So they'll say 76% retention, which means absolutely nothing to a hairdresser or a beauty therapist. They go, yeah, that's good, I think. What you need to be saying is that 10 weeks ago or 15 weeks ago, you looked after 25 clients and you rebooked a certain amount, but 5 we haven't seen. They've not been back. And so then you can look and say, oh, well, they were in town for a wedding or there's be a reason. But if you're not rolling over those numbers and looking at why a person doesn't come back, then what can happen is you can have someone who's not very busy in your team and you give them all the new clients because they're not busy and you think, well, the others can't do them, they're busy. Well, there's a reason why the other ones aren't busy. Now, this girl might be new, but if you're not measuring her lost, you just keep put 5 in the bucket every week and she loses 5. So that's a very expensive way. I think that the new people should come through the seniors. And if nothing else, the senior should be doing the consult and overseeing this new client. And then, yes, the other girl can do the facial or the spray tan or the color or something, but I wouldn't be putting anybody in a new person's column unless it was a proven system, because that's a bucket with a big hole in it. And that's what we do. We get so busy doing our clients as salon owners, we don't want to do any new clients. But I think that's your future, because people do leave. Sometimes they die, how inconsiderate, but if you're not looking at where to place those new clients, they're the most important people because they're coming from referrals or you're messaging on Instagram or wherever it is, but you've got a new client coming to you and you're putting in with someone who's least qualified to hang on to them. Very expensive. So you need to look at which are the ones that get lost, because with different team members, it might be that you give them spray tans and they're shit at spray tanning, so they lose all the spray tan clients. Or you give them facials that's out of their knowledge grade and then they lose the facials. So you need to be looking at lost, really, really important. And that to me is more important than target. And I would be doing targets around the least amount of lost clients. You could do targets around a lot of things instead of the whole big money thing. Whatever we're working on, if you're working on rebooking, then maybe the target's a reward around rebooking. So therefore it's even and fair for everybody rather than the high numbers is much easier for someone who's been there, I don't know, for 2 years or something. But if someone's only been there a hot 5 minutes, they can rebook so that it's a level playing field. So I think that's really important. Or if you're teaching how to suggest things, like someone comes in for a haircut and then you suggest they do a treatment and a haircut, then maybe reward people on suggestion. So it's still a bonus or a target or a reward, but it's not around this is the whole amount of money. Doesn't matter how you get there. If you get there, we'll give it to you. And that seems too big for most people. Those that are trained, it doesn't seem too big, but that's like down the track. From my experiences, most people have lots of ways that they can reward the performance they want in smaller ways. That's what I think. What have we got? Training is what I'd be doing. Training. I'm talking all the time about how many hours of training you do a week because you want things to change, but you don't spend enough time working on the change. And like I said, knowing exactly where people's weak spots are so that you can help them, and then find where their good spots are so that they can maybe teach someone else on the team. So it's really a revolving door of if you know something, you teach it, and if someone else knows something, they teach it. And that's how we just have these open conversations all the time. But I think it has to be a minimum of 5 hours a week. So if you're working the most amount of hours on the floor because your clients don't want anyone else but you, I think you're just going to stay stuck there. And then you're not doing any new clients, and it's not long before you get worn out, grumpy. And that's not what I want. Profit share is a whole different thing. Like there needs to be a profit first to share it for starters. The profit share, it fascinates me that so many people won't go into partnership with someone else. Yeah, they get married all the time, get into relationships. And I think, that's big, like partnerships can be in a way that I'm not saying sell half your business to someone else, but I think you've got to look at the key people that are around you that help you. So, your second in charge, if you want her to think and act and look like you and be a part of the business, then maybe it's a overall number that raises and tricks something into place that means she gets paid. So let's say you're doing 20,000 a week. If you do 22, maybe she gets a $500 bonus. I don't know. And these are all the things I'd have to know a lot more about it. But I think if you have a key person in your business, one or two seniors, then I think maybe they have to be checked to they're the right people, but a profit share overall. And that's really the only way you're going to get a senior to hand over some of her clients to like the junior type things, because if she's really focused on making more money and hitting her targets, then she's not going to give over her clients. She's going to keep them. So then she's going to keep spray tans and she's going to keep tint regrowths and she's going to teach really simple things that are way below her skill set because she wants to hit her target. But if the overall target is the performance of the whole salon, then it makes sense to her to give those, less skilled tasks over to a junior and oversee that they're done well, because then she's got more time to train someone. And the overall outcome is not her column, it's the salon. And I think that's really important. I shouldn't film in the afternoon because I yawn. I'm very sorry. I've been hiding one in for about 10 minutes trying to do my best. Clearly I've tricked nobody and then I yawned. So Deflating people who are a long way off. Like, you pop a target in because you think that this is going to work for them. I just think the person just goes, oh, now there's another sense of pressure. So they're already failing in themselves or in their mind or in their heart because they can't do what the other girls do. And then you slap a target on and then someone is winning a target and they're not. Like, I just don't think that's what you want to do. I don't think you want to steal the soul of someone who can't perform. But people tell you, put a target on, and then you do, and you haven't spent the time to work out the ins and outs of targets. And before you know it, you've made someone feel even worse. Like, don't do that, right? One-on-ones, knowing your business break even, breaking it down, looking at what profit you have. You can't do profit share if you don't have a profit, right? And sometimes people put in targets because they want their team to perform so they can get paid more. Well, it doesn't work like that, I can tell you. And spending time with your team is really important, and breaking down, where money is made and explaining what the average dollar sale is and what you can do in an hour, and, getting them to understand that actually on Saturday you do it. So maybe it's just on a Tuesday you don't have enough clients. So maybe we put together a promotion that brings people on a Tuesday, but it has to be a together solution. It can't be, right, this is what we're doing. It never works. Ever works. The other thing you've got to think about, are you going to do them weekly, fortnightly, monthly? The trouble with monthly is there's either 28 days or 29 a leap year, 28, 30 or 31. So that can be a little tricky. I'd prefer you did 3 weeks. That's what I do. 2 weeks is a bit short, but that's better than a single week. And the reason I don't like a single week is because, like, when they don't perform, you don't take any money off them. So they hit the target for 1 week and you give them a bonus. Like, it's consistency over time. That's what we want to reward. So doing it over 1 week, it's just not a good idea, right? And so if they've got public holidays, then you've got to pay them, but they don't perform. But I had a girl the other day, she had her best week ever and it had a public holiday in it. And she said it was amazing. I said, yeah, because all the other days are really full. Sometimes people panic when we're closed for a day, so they all come in. But it's consistency over time. It really is. And the thing that'll move the needle every single time is you need to sit with the problem longer. And now more than ever, people are uncomfortable about making people uncomfortable. I don't think you fix anything unless you're uncomfortable. Like, you just got to grow. Diamonds are made under pressure. Muscles are grown when time under tension. And I just think salons are the same. Like, you've got to sit with the problem and get them to be really honest with you. And they don't want to be honest with you. Well, it's a communication problem, because some people will sit there and say, yes, 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 3 bags full, but they don't do anything. And so at some point you've got to decide, like, is it a change of education style, or is this person never going to do it? But if you've got people who don't think about the next appointment, they don't make any suggestions, and they just do as they're told, what's in the book. Oh, you're having a haircut. Good, here's your haircut. Bye. That's not why we came into business. We came into business because we wanted to create an environment where everybody was happy, the team members and the clients, and it's got a really good vibe. And so when people are confident, then they will make suggestions and say, you know what, have you ever thought about this? And you think, oh, no, I haven't. And they, instead of just going, what are we doing today? They think about the long-term solution. That's where money's made. And when you've got people to that level of engagement and understanding, and clients that love them, and it's really not hard to hit a target. It's really not. But I'll show you that in a moment. Tax obligations. Some people, just shocks me. Like, they give someone a target and then it's cash, and I think, well, what about the tax part? Like, why aren't you paying the tax? They don't want it. I'm thinking, well, one, it's illegal to do that, but why would they get the benefits of that? If there was any cash spared, it would be yours, not to give away. So I think quite often the people pleasing part of you can be a bit of a beast, So it's really not a good idea. I think that a lot of times I come across salons and they've got these targets in place, and I think, oh my God, who put these in? Oh, I put them in without any thought, and then really hard to take it off them, really hard. And you can't blame them. You've been rewarding them for a very ordinary performance, and now you want them to do a great performance. that doesn't make sense. Like most people goes, that's shit. So sometimes when people brag about how long they've been there, I think, it could be a bit comfortable. I don't know, but I'm definitely interested in profit share. And profit share can be that if the whole team hits it, then the whole team get a bonus. And it can be, a percentage of hours or the years of service, but definitely I think team targets are really good. And there's nothing to stop you from just giving somebody money or giving somebody time off or giving somebody something that they want. Everybody's got different love languages. Some people like acts of service. Some people like words of affirmation. Some people are just so happy when you write something really lovely and grateful on a card. I've had girls over the years that worked for me, moving house and came across a card I gave them. And I'm words of affirmation. That's really important to me. And so I always did that, always wrote something really lovely on the card because you can say it, but it's gone. But when you write on a card like they do, they say, look what I just found, this from you. And I always put the year on it. And I said, yeah, because you're a winner. And I thank them for listening. That's the most important thing. But I think just make sure you don't have a hole in your bucket first. And that's in particular, I'm thinking about new clients. People say, I want new clients, but if you've got 5 new clients coming in now and you're still stuck on 70 or 75 clients a week, and if we raise that to 10, you'll still be stuck because there's a hole and people aren't staying. So that's what I'd be doing. I'm going to share the screen with you now, and I'm just going to draw something that will be really simple. It'll make sense. So hang on a second. Okay, let me share the screen with you now. So I think for most people, it should be 4 times your gross wage. But depends. Like some people have high rents because they're in the city. Some people have low rents because they're in a rural area and they pay $1.50 a week for their rent. Probably not $1.50, but it's all variable. So I think you need to make sure that you're profitable. But the thing that doesn't change is the wages. So the wages in the city and the wages in the country are the same. Your stock, you don't get a discount because you live in Timbuktu. If you're buying a product, whether they send it to you in the country might cost a little bit more, but often freight is country and city. And a bottle of something is a bottle of something. So yes, your rent might change, but that's about it really. Electricity, all sorts of things are the same no matter where you are. So you often say, oh, I can't charge those prices. And I think, well, you pay those wages. There's a lot of things that you do, doesn't matter where you live. So I think just 4 times is, I reckon, where you are at when people need to be looking at a bonus. But to be simpler than that, just to do this exercise, you could do times $100, right? So let's say if the person works 30 hours, right? So you've got 30 hours times $100 means that they need to be doing 3,000, right? Now, if you're being paid $1,000 to do that 30 hours, then 4 times the gross wage is 4,000, not 3,000, right? So that's why you have to look at it in a few ways. The reason I do $100 is because some people, like if you're a barber, you're probably not going to get paid what a beauty therapist is paid. And there's a certain limit to what you can earn. But I think, well, you can't do any more. If he's not doing, like, I just think $100 is too little. But I do that at first because I think I don't want you to be feeling like, oh my God, I'm so far away from it, right? And if you read my Teams book, I talk about, paying someone $1,000 gross who cuts hair of men, and then paying someone $1,000 gross who does colours, and there's so much more training, and it's really different. So I think you'd have to at least say that it's got to be this one, right? It's got to be, I'll circle it, it's got to be this one. So if you do 30 hours times 100 would be 3,000, but if you do $150 an hour, then it's 4,500. Right, so that's probably closer to this of their gross wages. I don't know, everyone's different, and because we do like all sorts of beauty, you got to work this stuff out, and you need to work this out behind the scenes before you go promising anybody anything. So let's look at it here, right? So if we've got Kate does 30 hours, so she's 4,500. That's what she needs to bring in. This one does 20 hours, so that would be 3,000. That's what hers is. And this one does 38, which a girl would need a calculator because I'm going to pull that out of there. I thought I wrote it down. I didn't. I don't know why I put 38 in. That's a bit hard, isn't it? Oh, you're probably used to me knocking up stuff by now. Doesn't matter. We get there. So, where's my calculator? That's not a real word, by the way. There it is. Okay, so let's say we do 38. Let's say we do 38 hours times $150 per hour equals 5,700. Right, so that's what they should be. Now, what I want you to do, and then you can do a junior. So a junior is going to be, maybe pay the junior $800, and they do 38 hours because you've got to send them to school. So let's say 38 hours, so you pay for them to go to school, times, I don't know what we do for her. Let's say $60 an hour equals 2,200. That looks about right. Let's put her up here, junior. All right, so her target is 2,000, something like that. All right. Now, what happens is you might have Kate, who's a gun, and Kate's, average week. Let's make it easy for Lisa Conway here, right? That's what Kate's bringing in most weeks. Then you've got team member 2. She does 20 hours, Sarah's, and she's actually doing a great job too. So quite often she might do, say 3,100, right? Or let's just look at one single week. And then you've got team member 1, Susie. She's just new. She's not doing it. So she's like 3,000. Now, what we want to look at is the gap. So the gap here is 1,500. The gap here is, it goes into green, this one. So this one's a plus 100. And then you've got this one, she's a plus 300, right? But you can see what happens here. You've got the 1,500 short, just rubbed out those two. And then you've got a junior, and she's quite new. So this is a problem here because the junior's bringing in 0. And you think, holy gosh, this is no good. So you've got a gap here of 2,280 here and here, and you've got 2 winners. So you think, how's that going to work? Well, that's why it's really important to do it. So, okay, Susie's only been here for 5 minutes, so she has potential, and you can work on that. But that's why I think targets are really important to introduce at the right time. So you have to be careful, because if you don't do something with team member 2 and 3, Susie and Kate, they can think, well, I'm doing all the work here and I don't get paid any extra because I got junior over here and I got the new girl on the block. So somewhere in between lies the balance. The first thing I'd be doing is getting the junior to take some pressure off these 2 so that they can do some, and there's lots of ways you can do that. We can even, anything that goes on there, we can magically put half of it back onto Kate and Susie. Like, there's lots of ways to get people to work as a team, right? Or then the other thing you do is you say, as a group, but we don't have yours in here, as a group, we add up all of these. So you add up, this is hers, this is hers, this is hers, and this is hers, and you add that up and we have a whole salon target. All right, so now everybody helps everybody. That can work too. But you can see the importance of doing the maths. What I want you to think about is wage levels, because quite often people go, oh, I've got this new girl and she wants to work and she wants to be paid $40 an hour and I only pay mine $35. And I think, well, you got a problem, haven't you? So the thing is, years of service, I don't know whether we should pay people just for years of service. We pay them for their skills. In beauty, we do a lot more. Or we pay them what they ask for. And this girl's saying, I want $40 an hour. And you're thinking, why would I give you $40 an hour? I've got girls here that are rippers and they're on 37. And so, the 37 might not be, it's pretty close to 40, but I'd be saying to her that, you've got to have a level entry. So if your level entry is 30, So in this case, it wouldn't be. So we'd say our level entry is 37. I start them all on. See, today the kids talk about their wages. We were told not to and we didn't, but now they talk about it. So I think it's really good if you can have something that's transparent. You can say, yep, this is what I do. Entry level people get paid 37. And then what? Right? So I think it needs to be around these things. Like, why would you pay someone more if they don't retail, they don't rebook, and their average dollar sales low? Look, who cares how long you've been here? You either service the clients properly and then you can go up a level, right? So then you can say anyone who does this, I don't know what you would say. You'd have to say maybe 70%. You retail, I would say, I don't know, different if you're hair or beauty, but I'd say, let's say if they sell 15 units, that's really basic, but let's say that, and your average dollar sales above, I don't know, 180, is that an 8? 180. So you'd have to look across what you've already got, right? And then you think, well, this person is entitled to have a pay rate of 40, right? And maybe if she gets 75, she can have a pay rate of 42. I don't know, but it needs to be so that you can explain it to somebody. Now, these are just my metrics, but depends. You might say you can't drop below 15 units, you can't drop below $180 average dollar sale, and you can't drop below 70. See, a lot of people don't want to pay a higher wage because then when they're sick, you paid the higher wage. They'd rather keep the wage lower and then have a bonus, right? And so the bonus, you don't pay the bonus if they're on holidays, but a lot of people can get $100 or $2 a week bonus, but they're not getting it on their holidays because they're not there. So there's lots of things to think about, but I think whatever it is, you need to have a level 1. Everybody starts on that. Now, if she does a rebooking straight up, she does her retail straight up, and her average dollar sale is what you believe it to be. And so if, some people are doing 230 average dollar sale, maybe 180 is good. But if nobody's doing 180, you don't put it at 180. But you can see that it's just really good to think about what would you do if no one was watching and no one commented? What do you think's fair? And I think you need a level 1 and you need a level 2. And I think level 3 is a conversation around commission. Right? But you don't go from there to there. Some people have great capacity to do retail like you wouldn't believe. Some beauty therapists I've worked with make more money in their retail than they do in their services, right? If their skin and things like that. So every model's different, and that's where I think you've got to be very careful. You don't slap a target on someone because you think that it's going to motivate them. This is the stuff that you really need to work out first. So hopefully that was helpful. Targets are great, but some people like a low target and they want to hit it every week, and some people don't. So you've got to think about why don't they? It needs to be fair and explain to everybody who's winning, who's not winning. And so it doesn't have to be either 100 or 150. It can be 125, it can be 120. But you need to do some maths on it so that you can say, yep, that's achievable. I've actually got people that are already doing it. Team member 2 does and team member 3 does. Team member 1 doesn't. And maybe because she's never there. Maybe because she's brand new. Maybe because she doesn't have the skills. So, and it's really good to, when you're talking about targets and you're introducing them, it's a really good time to talk about if we were to raise what we charge. So you think about 10% across the board. So if you put 10% on here, getting a bit off track now, but hang on. If you put 10% on what this girl's, then she's got another $570. That's going to be epic. This one's got another $300. All right. This one's not going to make that much difference, but she's doing, well, it is 300, another $300 on there. No, it's 3-1 there. Sorry. Anyway, you get the point. It's 600. It's this one, dopey Lisa. All right. Then this is 310. But the point is 10%. Like if you've got people queuing up out the door and around the hill, up the hill and around the corner, and put your prices up. That's $1,200 a week. Same amount of work. but you've got to have demand. And that's going to help them to go, yeah, this is a great idea. This is going to help me to get my target. But it's not easy to just slap a target. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to have a good think about it, because people deserve to be paid well. They really do. But they need to earn it too.